Hi, I'm Mindy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my wrap up for August, specifically the last half of August. I have a video up on my channel for the 6 books that I read in the first half of August. And in this video, I'll talk about the 7 books I read in the last 2 weeks of August. And total for the month of August, I read 13 books, which was 3,364 pages and 64 hours of audio. I read thrillers, sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. The first book I read in the second half of August was One Dark Night by Hannah Ritchell, and this was an arc. And I have a full review of this, which I will link down below if you want to hear more details. But this is a thriller that takes place on and around Halloween. And it is a mystery around the death of a private school student who was at a Halloween party in the woods. And it is a really great murder mystery with a few spooky elements, but not to the extent of a horror book or something like that. So it's a good choice for if you want a atmospheric Halloween time read that's not horror. And I gave it 5 stars. Next, I finished Howling Dark by Christopher Ruocchio. This is book 2 in the Sun Eater series, science fiction series that is really epic. I read this as a read along with the Bookish Drummer on his Discord, and this book is another 5-star read. It is one of my new favorite series. And I also was listening to The Marriage Act by John Mars for the Bookish Drummer Discord John Mars read along. And I heard from in the chat that there's spoilers for The Passengers. And The Passengers I only got partway through when we were reading it. I think it was February. So I had to go back and finish The Passengers by John Mars, which is a sci-fi thriller about people taken hostage in self-driving cars. And it was really so thrilling and lots of twists and turns and just full of tension and dread. Perfect sci-fi thriller, 5 stars again. This was a really good streak. The next book I finished was also for the Bookish Drummer Discord, and this was another read-along for the Dagger and the Coin series by Daniel Abraham. I finished book 3 in August. I talked about book 2 in my first half of the month wrap-up. The Tyrant's Law, a really good continuation in the series. All the characters that are complicated, shades of gray, with interesting connections and things that they're doing. I gave it 4 stars. Next, I finished The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. And this is a science fiction dystopian novel. It reminded me a lot of 1984, like very much a dystopian. This was for the quarterly book club for Kelly Hooked on Books, and it's about a world where there is a group called the Memory Police that work for the government, who is taking things out of the memory of the people. Things, small things, like roses. But these small things add up when they keep taking things away, and the memory police is in charge of making sure nobody has these items anymore and looks for people that can remember and have to take them into custody. It is scary, as dystopians always are for me. Don't like to think about worlds that could be this extreme, but it's like a enhanced version of, you know, what could happen in our future. Not specifically this future, probably, but, you know, something along these lines of government control. I love Yoko Gawa's stories, her writing, and I gave this 5 stars. Next, I did finally go back and finish The Marriage Act, since I had finished The Passengers. And The Marriage Act is another sci-fi thriller in the same world as The Passengers and The One, which I read earlier in the year. And The Marriage Act is about an act about marriage. You can get a smart marriage, and then you get all these benefits. And it seems like it'd be really nice to have these benefits, but then you realize that there's a lot that can go wrong, and it involves a lot of, you know, spying on the couple. Everything is watched, and then if you're having any problems in your marriage, then they will send someone to help with your marriage. It's also pretty unfair that people that are not in a smart marriage are not getting these kinds of rights and preferential treatment. Really interesting story. Not quite as good as The Passengers or The One, but still a good book. I gave it 3.5 stars. And then the last book I finished in August was my book club for Jason's Weird Reads book club. We were reading Little Heaven by Nick Cutter, and this is a horror book. Well, I haven't been showing my books. Here's The Passengers by John Mars. I guess I'm going to have to put a little picture up like for the rest of the books. But here's Little Heaven. And Little Heaven, all I knew about this going in, that it was a cult book. And I like cult books, so I was excited. I've had this since it came out, and I've finally read it. I heard some not so great things, like it's not as good as his other books, but I did like it. I do agree it wasn't as good as The Troop or The Deep, but this was so much more than a cult book. Like, there was a lot of surprising things in here. It's about 3 hired killers that are hired to go into this cult eventually, but there's a lot that goes on before that even happens. Like, the cult is not until the last half of the book, really. There's also a creature element that I had no idea about, or I had forgotten about if someone had talked about it before. So yeah, there's a lot going on in this story. There's some like things, I don't know if he adds these things just to be shocking or whatever. Typical Nick Cutter book. There was some animal torture, a brief scene. There was racism, unsavory depiction of someone with, I don't know what the correct term is, but like a mental disability. It was very gritty. It was very dark and dirty. The first half I wasn't quite sure about it, but it did become very entertaining in the last half. And I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars as well. Those are the 7 books I read in the last half of August. I had a great reading month with tons of 5-star reads, which I'm very happy about, and I'm so excited to be going into spooky season, my very favorite time of year. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, and what was your favorite book you read in August. I'd love to know, and I'll be back very soon with another book-related video. Thanks. Bye.